Alrighty, I've got my Jurassic Park t-shirt on, I've got a Pacifico with a lime in it, so that must mean it's Friday. And we are back with another Nattie's Cocktail Minute. Today is Ecuador edition, and today I'm going to talk about our Ecuador trip, so let's get into it. Alright, how about now? Now we good? That was not as dramatic as I thought it was going to be. So, a little backstory. I first went to Ecuador in 2007. I was in college and 19 years old. I went with a program called International Student Volunteers for 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, I studied Spanish in Quito, I worked on an organic farm, and then I took an adventure tour all around the country. I didn't really realize it at the time, but it really spurred my love of travel and outdoor adventure. So I was obviously very excited to come back. We were originally supposed to take the trip in 2020, but we all kind of know what happened. And it was supposed to be a much bigger trip. The plan was to spend a couple months in Ecuador and then slowly work our way all the way through South America for, like 6 to 9 months. We wanted to go and snowboard in Chile and Argentina. I eventually wanted to make it to Bolivia and Uruguay, but obviously that all got scrapped. So when we were rebooking for this year, we decided just to plan for 1 month in Ecuador. Mostly because when we were planning, everything was still so up in the air. I was not confident this trip would actually happen. I didn't actually believe we were gonna go until we were on the plane. Alright, so let's talk about this trip because it was epic. We flew into Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. I've forgotten all my lines. We flew into Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador, and spent a few days there before going to the Galapagos to meet up with my family. I'm gonna be totally honest, it was not the greatest few days. There was nothing bad necessarily, and our Airbnb was beautiful. It was a gorgeous apartment with beautiful views, but it was in the old town, which I think normally would be a nice place to stay. It's close to a lot of the tourist attractions, the churches, the plazas. It's a beautiful area, but I think it's still recovering from the pandemic because it's a big tourist area and there's just not a lot of tourists there right now, which made it feel a little bit weird and empty and even sketchy at times. But we did venture out to other parts of Quito and found other neighborhoods to be much more lively and inviting. So if you're gonna go to Quito right now, I probably would not stay in the old town. But either way, Quito's still cool. There's still a lot to see there. It's just, it's a big city, and with big cities, it can... I'm going on a tangent now about big cities, because you can have bad stuff and good stuff there. Next, we went to the Galapagos with my family, which was a lot of fun, a little family vacation. The Galapagos Islands are off the coast of Ecuador. It is made up of 21 islands and is a national park. There are 2 ways to go about visiting the Galapagos. There are 2 ways to go about visiting the Galapagos, either by land, which is when you stay on one island and then take day trips out each day to different islands to explore. You'll need a local tour company to do that with because, you'll need a boat. Or the other way is by sea, on a cruise, which is what we did. And honestly, I think that was awesome. The cruise boat was super nice. You travel in between islands overnight, so you wake up in a new place every day with new things to explore. So something to note about the Galapagos is that they are quite strict in terms of how you visit the national parks areas on the islands. You have to have a guide and you have to go on a schedule. So this serves a couple of purposes. Having a guide to lead you around is awesome because they give you, you know, all the good information. Also, people tend to behave a little bit better when you have a guide, since somebody, you know, from the park service watching you. And then also on the schedule, that means there's not like 1,000 people all on one island all at once. So like, I think there can only be 2 to 3 tour groups in any island or area at one time, which is awesome because it makes you feel like you have the place to yourself. Like, how rad is that? They have these rules to protect, you know, the islands themselves as well as the animals, which is great because these islands have been protected for so long that the animals aren't afraid of people. Like, they'll come right up to you. It makes it such a great experience to be able to see things like sea lions and marine iguanas and all the different birds so close up. And it's so freaking cool. After our Galapagos Islands tour cruise thing, we headed back to the mainland and went out to the coast to a couple of little towns called Olan and Montanita. This is the surfing capital of Ecuador. It has some of the best waves in the country. Also, Montanita is known as a bit of a party town. When I was there in college, it was still known as a party town, but like there was only like 2 or 3 bars. But now the town is much bigger with a lot of bars. It makes me think of like, I don't know, Rosarito during spring break, which like is not necessarily a bad thing. That's just how it is, and you should be prepared for that when you go into it. Like, I've read a couple of blog posts where like people complain, they're like, this is not the like luxury beach resort I was expecting. And I was like, what? Who has ever said this is a luxury beach place? Anyways, so we had planned on surfing while we were there, but honestly, like, it ended up being really like cold and cloudy and like a little bit drizzly. July is going into like the cold, dry, cloudy season. So like we just didn't, it was hard to motivate to go out and get in the water. But the hostel we were staying at had yoga classes, so I did a lot of yoga. We just kind of hung out. It was really nice and relaxing. After our time in Montanita, we took a harrowing bus trip to Ecuador's 3rd largest city, Cuenca. It's nestled up in the Andes Mountains. And I say harrowing because we went from sea level up a 13,000-foot mountain pass and then back down into the valley at 8,000 feet where Cuenca is, all in one day. So yeah, sea level to 13,000 feet, then to 8,000. Also, the road was washed out in places and the bus would have to like go around on the dirt, like cliff edge, which, you know, doesn't seem sketchy at all. Regardless, we made it to Cuenca safe and sound. It was fine. And Cuenca is an awesome city. It is gorgeous. The colonial architecture makes it look like you're in Europe somewhere, honestly. And there's a ton to do all around. There's Cajas National Park with tons of hiking just outside the city. Oh, I just burped. That was gross. Okay. Back to Cuenca. There are also the Incan ruins of Ingaprica, which are about an hour and a half outside the city. Those are said to be the ruins of the 2nd capital of the Incan Empire, so like the sister city to Machu Picchu, which is pretty cool. Cuenca is also a big expat like city. There are tons of co-working spaces and cafes, and just like a lot of good restaurants and bars to hang out in. It was, I would love to go back there. After Cuenca, we hopped on a quick flight back to Quito to start our Cotopaxi training. If you don't follow me on Instagram, where I've posted about Cotopaxi like 1,000 times, first of all, go follow me. Nattie on the road. Cotopaxi is a 19,000-foot volcano just south of Quito. It also has a glacier on it, and I had made it my mission to climb it. Quito sits at 9,000 feet, so it's pretty high elevation, and there's a lot of really good hiking in that general area. So we came back to Quito for a week before our Cotopaxi hike so that we could do some training hikes beforehand. This time in Quito, we stayed in the like college, like hipstery area, which I liked a lot more. It felt a lot more comfortable. And so we spent the week, you know, hiking and trying local breweries because life is about balance. And finally, our last Ecuadorian adventure was Cotopaxi. It's a 2-day hike to summit because the first day you have to get to the refugio, which is like the base camp, and then the second day you hike to the summit. So we got to the refugio in the afternoon. It's a pretty short hike from like the bottom parking area, so nothing too crazy that first day. The refugio does sit at just about 16,000 feet though, so you're at like a very high elevation. So we really just spent that afternoon kind of acclimating, drinking tea, playing cards, and then we just had an early dinner and went to bed at like 6 p.m. because we woke up at 11 to start our hike at midnight. It seems a little crazy, but it works out well because you get to summit right around sunrise, and that's awesome. The hike is slow going. It is very steep. You do just over 3,000 feet of elevation in just 3 miles. When you're at that like high of elevation, like you just have to move slowly. So it took us 8 hours round trip. When we summited, it was so windy and cloudy at the top that we didn't see the sunrise, but it was still rad to summit. And we were lucky enough that the clouds did clear on our way down, so we got some amazing views as we were coming down the mountains, so that was good. And then the craziest part is we went back to Quito, took a nap, packed up all our stuff, and flew back to the US that night. Well, like early the next morning. Like our flight was at like 2 in the morning. So in the span of 24 hours, we were hiking a mountain and then on an airplane. Which it seems a little crazy, but we did it. We survived and it was rad. I think some of the highlights of the trip for me were scuba diving and snorkeling in the Galapagos, and then summiting Cotopaxi, so you know, bottom of the sea and top of a mountain. I apparently like the extremes. I'm planning on talking more in depth about the Galapagos and our hiking adventures in the next couple of episodes, but if you want me to talk about anything else, Ecuador in general, Cuenca, Quito, whatever, let me know in the comments and I can do a bit or an episode about that too. So don't forget to like and subscribe and click the little bell thingy so you get notifications on Fridays when I post a new video, because obviously you should come have a beverage with me and talk about travel because this is awesome, right? And until next week, happy weekend and cheers!